Okay, in your baggie, you're going to find an oval, a star, and a thread that has been wrapped around the oval. So the first thing that you need to do is very carefully unwrap your thread from your oval. You want to try to put it out in a long line so that it doesn't get raveled. So the first step is threading your needle. There's a few tips for threading a needle. The first one is if your fibers aren't all the same length, you can cut your thread on an angle. The next thing that I try to tell students is to actually lick the thread so that the fibers are together. You want to hold it up by the very edge, and this is when you're going to take your eye of the needle and go through the thread. Once you have done that, you're going to bring both of your ends together. This means we're going to be sewing with 2 strands instead of 1. We're going to tie the knot down here on the opposite side of your needle. So your 2 strands are now together. I don't care how you make a double knot, as long as it's by the end of your thread. The easiest way that I think you should do it is if you wrap it around your finger, kind of looks like an X. Then you're going to hold in the middle of the X so that with your other hand you can pull off the thread. So now it looks like a small loop. You're going to take your 2 tails and you're going to push them under and through, and that will make 1 knot. You're going to do the exact same thing to make a double. Make an X on your finger, hold the middle, take it off so you have a loop, take the 2 tails, go underneath, and then through the circle. And then you can see I have a double knot, 2 knots that sit right on top of one another. That way when you go to sew, it's not going to come through to the other side. So now what we're going to do is make sure that we're putting our star directly in the middle of our oval. You're going to notice on the one side I've traced the star. You don't want to use this side. You want to use the side that is clean, the side that doesn't have any markings on it. The same thing goes for your oval. Make sure that you don't have any markings on your oval. If you do, just flip it over to the other side. When we get started, your thread is going to be really long. So you have to make sure that your stitching is very slow. Otherwise, you can easily get a knot in your thread. So we're going to start from the underside. So basically what you're going to do is you can start anywhere on this star. We're going to trace all the way around our star with what's called a basic stitch. It's just an in and out stitch. So somewhere the perimeter of your star, you're going to start by pushing your needle through and then pulling your thread all the way through slowly until you reach that knot. Your next stitch is actually going to jump over your star, and then you're going to go out your oval. And then again, you're going to go slow so you don't get a knot. And that's actually considered a basic stitch. So I'm going to continue all the way around my project. You want to make sure that your stitching is pretty close together so that your star is going to be tacked in place. Again, I'm going to remind you to go really slow so that you don't get any knots on the back of your project or the front. Once you put it through the perimeter, you're going to jump over your star and go out your oval. What I tell most students is at the end, you should have about 40 to 50 stitches, about 5 on each side. So I'm just going to continue working. Jump over the star, go out the oval, in through the perimeter of the star, jump over the star, go out the oval, you'll also want to make sure that you're tacking down the edges of your star. So a lot of times my last stitch for the point is going to be right at the perimeter of the point. Perimeter of the star, jump over, go out the oval. So I'm going to continue to do these stitches all the way around my project. If you notice, they're about the same length and they're about the same size. That's what you want to do on your project as well. The other thing I want to remind you is try to use your thumbs to tack things in place. Otherwise your star is going to kind of start scooching to the side and then it won't be in the middle of your project. So again, we're going to go in through the perimeter of the star, pulling all the way through. Your next stitch is going to jump over your star and go through your oval. Underneath again, through the perimeter of the star, jump over your star and go into the perimeter, this oval. Perimeter of the star, jump over the star into the oval. Don't forget the tip of the star, tack it into place. Jump over your star, in through your oval. So you can see here that my stitching is pretty close together. I basically have 4 to 5 stitches on each side of my star. All together I'm between 45 and 50 stitches. Now you can see my thread is still pretty long. So I'm going to actually use this next thread for the next part of the project, which is putting a button in the middle. So you can get a button, and you're going to be placing it in the middle of your star. We're going to be doing the same kind of stitch, a basic stitch, going through one hole and then the other. So I'm going to start from underneath, go into the one hole, then I'm going to pull through just like I've been doing with the basic stitch. Then I'm going to go back through to the other hole. I'm going to continue this 10 times so it's really tacked down right in the middle of your star. So that's 1, 2. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 'See how sometimes I'm having a hard time figuring out where the hole is. And if I look at the back, I can notice that my stitching is right here in the middle, and that usually is going to help me to figure out where that hole is. That's why I keep looking in the back. So that would be 9, 10. Okay, now there's 2 ways that we can end the stitch so that we can tie a knot at the end. I'm going to turn my project over. I'm going to show you one way. So my thread is still pretty long, and so the easiest way to make a knot is if you go back underneath your last few stitches. Then I'm going to pull it through until I have a small loop left over. I'm going to then stick my needle through the loop, and I'm just going to pull tight, and that's going to be it, making a knot. You always want to do a double knot, so I'm going to do the same thing again. Go underneath my last few stitches. Pull my thread through until I have a small loop. And then from there, I'm going to go through the loop and then pull tight. Let's say that your thread is much shorter. If it's much shorter, what you're going to do is take it from the very top where your needle is, and you're going to cut off the thread. From here, you're going to take your 2 strands apart, and yours is probably going to be a lot shorter, so let's say it's about there. You'll take your 2 strands apart, and you're going to tie it like you would the beginning of a shoelace. So you're going to go over, under, and pull. It's basically a shoelace without the bunny ears. You're going to do that again so that you have a double knot. Over, under, pull. And then we can cut the rest of this off since it already has a knot on it. Now we're finished with this first side. So what I'm going to suggest is you put this into your baggie so that you have it when we need to put our 2 pieces together. In the meantime, you're going to take your other oval and you can get another star. Again, when you're putting your star on, make sure you're not using the side that is already traced. Use the side that is clean. You're going to be doing the same thing to this other oval. You're going to be doing a basic stitch all the way around. From there, I'm going to show you the next stitch, which is called the Lazy Daisy. Okay, so now that we have our second oval with our basic stitch on it, we're going to be learning a new stitch called the Lazy Daisy. So I'm going to remind you again that once you have knotted your thread and you cut off the end pieces, you're going to have to get another piece of thread. You're going to have to thread your needle again and tie your knot again. So when you are tying or when you are threading your needle, if you can't get it, you want to first cut your thread so that it's on an angle so that all the fibers are at the same length. Sometimes you even want to lick it and then bring the fibers together with your thumbs and then hold it at the very end. You're then going to take your needle and you're going to put the eye of the needle through the thread, and then we'll bring both ends together so that we can tie a knot on the opposite side of your needle. You can tie a knot however you wish, as long as it's at the end and it is a double knot. I like to make an X, hold the middle, take it off my finger, take the 2 ends, put them underneath, and then pull tight. I'm going to do that again so I have a double. X, hold the middle, take it off your finger, take your two ends underneath and pull. Sometimes you can see I have one knot here and I have another knot here. So I'm actually going to do a third knot to see if I can either get it on top of this one or get it on top of that one. Otherwise it's going to pull through the fabric. Okay, now you can see it's going to be a triple knot there. So to do a lazy daisy, it's going to kind of look like a daisy, and that's why they call it a lazy daisy. It looks like 5 loops of a flower, the petals. So what we're going to do is start exactly in the middle of your star. And basically for each of the points of your star, you're going to have one daisy loop that looks like the petals. So I'm going to show you how to do the first petal and then continue on. So right in the middle, you're going to pull your thread all the way through. Now from here, you're actually going to go almost in the same exact hole. You can see by looking at it, it looks like I have it in the same exact hole. It's a little bit over to the right. So I'm going to pull my thread through with my needle. But you can see I'm kind of using my thumb to make sure that not all of the thread is going to go through. So I'm going to kind of tack it into place with my thumbs. And you can see it kind of looks like a loop or a petal, a daisy petal. And so what I'm going to do is, so that it won't go through to the other side, is I'm going to tack it into place. I'm going to put a tiny little stitch right here up at the top, one on either side of the loop. So I'm going to start from underneath. You can see I'm kind of just tugging it into place how I like the loop to look. And then I'm going to take my next stitch and I'm going to jump over the loop, and I'm going to go right by the top of my daisy. And that's going to be one petal. So I'm going to do another petal here, another petal here, another one here, and then my 5th one right here. So I'm going to do another one so that you can see what it looks like. Again, my next stitch is going to meet right back in the middle. There's no gaps in between. I'm going to bring my thread all the way through, and then my next stitch again is going to go right in the middle. My thumb is going to help me hold this in place. Try to make it the same length as the first one that you made here. So here's my loop. Okay, so I want to tack it in place again. I'm going to put one stitch on the inside of the loop. I'm going to put one stitch on the outside of the loop. So I'm going to start from underneath. I'm going to put it in the top portion of the loop on the inside. And then I'm going to jump over the daisy and I'm going to put it on the outside. You're going to continue all the way around till you have 5 petals. All right, so now you can see that the lazy daisy is completed. There's 5 different lazy daisy loops around, and all of them are meeting back in the center. Now the next stitch is actually an enrichment stitch, so if you finish early, it's one that you can try. I will admit it's the hardest one to get. So the enrichment stitch is called a French knot, and you can really put French knots wherever you want. Some people like to put it right in the middle of their lazy daisy. Other people like to put it at the tips of their star. Some people like to trace their whole star around with it if they feel like they're really good at it. I'm going to show you how to do a French knot right in the middle of your lazy daisy. So always start from underneath. And I'm being very exact that I want to get right in the middle of my stitch. So to do a French knot, you're going to hold the thread with your opposite hand. So the hand that you write with, you're going to be using the opposite hand. So I'm right-handed, I'm going to be using my left hand here. With your needle, you're going to wrap it around your thread. And now it's almost like I'm poking myself right here in my nail. I'm going to wrap it underneath. Once, twice, 3, 4, 5 times. So you can see it's wrapped around my needle. Now I'm not letting go with my left hand at all. I'm bringing down my thread to the point. And you can see it kind of looks like a little dot right now. So what you're going to be doing is sliding your needle down to the very edge, and then you're going to prick it back through to the other side. I'm still holding this thread with my left hand, and I'm going to continue to do so until I pull my thread all the way through. Okay, so I'm kind of getting to the point where I can't hold it any longer, and now I'm going to pull it through the rest of the way.